Hi guys, welcome back to TOEFL with Juva. Today I tell you my 5 top tips for taking notes in TOEFL listening. These tips will improve your TOEFL listening score considerably. By the way, if you want to get more tips for the TOEFL and download templates, subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss the next video. Let's get started. Let's start with tip number 1. Don't write down everything. In TOEFL listening, it's very tempting to write down everything that is being said. However, I don't recommend it because if you write down everything you're listening to, it's very likely that you don't focus on the important things. And these are the things you will need later in order to answer the questions correctly. This also means that it doesn't make any sense to write down everything that is being said because you will not be asked everything in the questions. You will be asked key points. You will be asked the important things. How can you know what is important? This question brings us directly to tip number 2. Anticipate the questions. You must know the question types that you will be asked in TOEFL listening. If you know that, it will be a lot easier for you to take notes that help you answer the questions correctly. Because then you know what you need to listen for and what you need to write down. And this means that this will prevent you from taking notes that you don't need. If you want to know what kind of questions you will be asked in TOEFL listening, have a look at my videos about that. In these videos, I explain exactly what types of questions will appear in TOEFL listening, and I tell you strategies how to solve these questions correctly. You can find the links to these videos in the description below. Let's go on with tip number 3. Don't copy the speaker. Guys, in TOEFL listening, it's very tempting to try to write down the exact same words of the speaker because you think, I need that later in order to answer the questions correctly. However, if you try to write down the exact words of the speaker, it may happen that you don't focus anymore on the idea the speaker wants to convey because you are so focused on the exact words he uses because you think, okay, I have to get that. I have to write down exactly what he's saying. And this means you may lose focus. You don't get the general idea. But the problem is you need this idea in order to answer the questions correctly after the listening. If you lose focus and don't get the idea of the speaker, you will lose points. And that's why I can highly recommend using your own words when taking notes in TOEFL listening. So while you're listening, try to understand the idea that the speaker wants to convey, and then write down this idea in your own words. This is all you need in order to answer the questions correctly. Let's go on with tip number 4. Listen for self-correction. In TOEFL listening, the speaker sometimes makes a mistake. And then, immediately afterwards, he corrects himself. If this happens, it's very likely that you will get a question later that asks you about this self-correction, that asks you what the speaker really wanted to say. And these questions can be quite tricky because sometimes it's really hard to get this self-correction, to understand that the speaker corrected himself because he wanted to say something different. The examiner uses these self-corrections because he wants to check whether you understand, okay, the speaker corrected himself. He actually wanted to say something different. This means that it's very important that you listen actively for these self-corrections and that you take notes of that. You have to pay attention, especially in conversations, because in conversations it's very likely that a speaker corrects himself. For example, it may happen that a student talks to a professor and the professor says, "The deadline for your assignment is on Monday." "Oh no, I forgot. It's on Tuesday." So make sure that you listen very carefully to things like that and that you write them down. Let's get to tip number 5. Use abbreviations and symbols. Guys, when taking notes in TOEFL listening, I can highly recommend using abbreviations and symbols because this will save you a lot of time. For example, use arrows to indicate that the speaker is talking about a consequence, or use the plus symbol to indicate that the speaker is adding an idea. And there is one thing that is really important here. Make sure that you are familiar with the abbreviations and symbols that you use, because you need to understand your notes later when you're answering the questions. That's it. These are my 5 top tips for taking notes in TOEFL listening. I hope this video was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions or a video wish, tell me about that in the comments below. I'd love to hear about that. And if you want to get more tips for the TOEFL and download templates, hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss the next video. I'd love to see you here next time. Bye bye!